We have Mirrah Foulkes, writer and director of the new film Judy and Punch, as well as one of the stars, Damon Herriman, joining me today on Real 360. Thanks to both of you for joining me.
No worries. Thanks for having us.
Mirrah, I'm going to start with you. I'd like to share with our audience, our viewers, the fact that this is your first time sitting in the writers and directors chair for a feature film. Can you share with us how you got the opportunity to make Judy and Punch?
Yeah, sure. So I've been an actor for a long time. I started writing and directing a few short films, just as a sort of dipping my toe into seeing if that was something that was interesting to me. And the first two shorts that I made were bought by Vice in America for their short film platform. So I started to get to know the guys at Vice Films in the States, and they came to me a few years ago now and said, we are interested in developing a feature. We're curious to know if you want to write it for us. We want to make a live action film about Punch and Judy, the puppet play. And I was sort of intrigued, and I didn't really kind of know what it would be or how it would sort of unfold. But that said about a period of development where I kind of was given an incredibly long leash from Vice to build this world and to be as kind of bold and as weird as I wanted to be from a writing perspective, and that's how the whole thing sort of began.
But you turn this story on its head. Tell our audience a little bit about the premise of this is no ordinary tale about puppeteers back in the day.
Yeah, well, essentially what it is a sort of a revisionist or a fictionalized origin story about this puppet show, which is notoriously violent, and that violence is often directed towards Judy, Punch's wife, and it's strangely enough, it has historically been an entertainment show for kids. So I was kind of fascinated by that. I was fascinated by the fact that this weird puppet show has endured over such a long time. It originated in Italy with Commedia dell'arte when it was marionette puppets, and then I like to think it sort of devolved into these strange little hand puppets that just beat each other up, basically. I was sort of fascinated by that, so I wanted to take it back to a kind of historical place where we could use marionettes and we could play around with the idea of how this story may have ended up where it is today. So that's kind of how it came to pass.
Very good. And Damon, I say, and don't take offense at this, but I think you are pretty familiar with playing characters that, let's just say, aren't as pure as the white snow, or maybe more like driven snow out there. Tell me about what was your initial reaction to reading this script and your character?
Well, I was blown away when I read the script. It was one of the best scripts I've ever read anywhere in the world. I thought it was just so original, and it didn't feel like anything I'd ever read. I laughed. I was shocked. I thought it was extraordinary. In terms of the role of Punch, I read that thinking, well, that's one of the best roles for a male actor that's ever been written. There's no way in hell I'll ever get to go for that. And then one day I got a call saying, hey, do you want to audition for this? And I just assumed it was a trick, and it was really just an audition for one of the smaller roles, using the bigger role because there's more material to play with. Sometimes, directors do that. And it's certainly still one of the best days of my life, getting a call saying I got this role. I couldn't quite believe it.
Well, and they say never work with babies or dogs. And one of you work with both of them, and those scenes are probably some of the most shocking scenes, or one of the most shocking scenes in the film. Can you tell me about those scenes a little bit? Don't give too much away, though. And maybe the fun that you had in portraying Professor Punch during these scenes.
Well, they were right when they said don't work with babies and dogs, based on the experience we had on this film. We loved the babies to be actually, but they were babies, so they cry, and they don't necessarily cry at the time you want them to cry. The babies were twins actually. They're playing the child that Punch and Judy have. And very early on in the shoot, there was a moment where Punch screams very loudly, and from that moment onwards, they were absolutely terrified of me. Couldn't really have them in a scene with me without them bursting into tears. So there was that, and then the dog had to do a couple of things, not that difficult, just things like eat sausages, not that hard for a dog normally. But the dog failed at that quite dismally as well. And all these things were happening on our very first day of the shoot. So we had a very, very interesting day. I think Mirrah, probably thought, well, this is a disaster from day one. Thankfully, it was all uphill from there. But there was a lot of fun. The film has moments of darkness, as you referred to, but there's a lot of humor in there as well. And we had a ball making this film.
Oh, I am sure that you did. Mirrah, tell us a little bit. You've got Mia, and tell me if I'm pronouncing her name incorrectly. Wasikowska?
It's pretty close. She's not pedantic about it because it's a really tricky one, but that's pretty close.
Thank you. Good. We'll just say Mia then, and she plays Judy. Tell me about finding her and then directing her, because this is a very powerful female-centric film.
Knew that I wanted a really kind of strong actor for the role, and someone who could do justice to Judy. Mia was absolutely on top of my list, and I knew her a little bit from around the traps, and she happened to be in Sydney for a stint. So I just caught up with her and asked her if she'd be interested in reading stuff she wanted to do, thinking it felt like a bit of a long shot, but I wanted to offer it to her first. And she just responded really well to the script. She was in a position where it was the right role for her at the right time. She was very keen to try and work home in Australia when she could. So it was just a kind of a lucky time, and that she loved the role. So she was very supportive from the get-go, and a pleasure to work with.
Very good. And Damon, did you know anything about Punch and Judy, or did you have to research it? And then what aspects of the personality of Professor Punch did you want to make sure the audience saw?
I did know about it. I was certainly, if you're, probably, I guess, over 35 in Australia, you're likely to have heard of Punch and Judy, and I'm pretty sure I saw Punch and Judy shows as a kid. You don't really see them anymore now, although in England they still exist. In Australia, I don't know if they do so much. But in terms of what I wanted to get across, it was really, I just wanted to do justice to the script that Mirrah had written. Obviously, this was a kind of a reinvention of the puppet show story anyway. And in the script, Mirrah's certainly tipped her hat to pretty much every reference from the original Punch and Judy show. So there wasn't really anything there that I needed to do other than try and pull off the incredible role that Mirrah had written. So I really just took everything from the script.
Very good. Mirrah, I know that you've got big names in this film, but you also have some theatrical actors in this as well. Can you tell me a little bit about casting some of those smaller roles with the theater actors?
Yeah, it's really fun actually, because this kind of language and the kind of performance style that we're working with in this movie, more so the language. I mean, the performance style, we always talked a lot about wanting to keep it kind of really grounded and nuanced and real, but there's certainly a theatricality to the language and to some of the characters. So it was a really nice opportunity to get to cast some actors who don't necessarily do so much screen work, whose background is more in theatre. And an opportunity for me to cast just a lot of actors who I think are fantastic, who I haven't worked with for a long time. So there's a bunch of people in there that I know. There's a bunch of actors that I worked with that I met at drama school, and some really wonderful actors that I haven't had a chance to work with that I just love, like Gillian Jones, who plays Dr. Goodtime. She was someone that I've always wanted to work with. I think she's phenomenal, and I felt really lucky to get a chance to work with her. Terry Norris, who plays Scaramouche. I mean, it was really a wonderful opportunity to work with these actors, and yeah.
Damon, and maybe this is for Mirrah as well. The set is absolutely spectacular, and it's nothing like I've ever seen before. Damon, what was your reaction? Are there any, I don't know if I want to say bumps in the road, but maybe some logistical difficulties with being there, or maybe it was magical and captivating? Tell me your experience on the set.
It was pretty magical and captivating. Mirrah and the production designer found this incredible artists retreat called Montsalvat just outside of Melbourne in Victoria, that was built, I think, in the 1930s or something, but it looks like England hundreds of years ago, so it was kind of perfect. And then with all the production design and art direction that was added to that, everything just looked spectacular. And then, of course, you got the amazing the tent that we performed the puppet shows in, and that was really magical to walk in there. And then you add the amazing costumes to that. Certainly the world that was built around these characters was so helpful for the actors to really feel like they were entering this world.
Very good. And Mirrah, as this is your first film, which just blows me away that this is your first film, just it is production, every element of this, the script, the directing, everything is just so tight, so cohesive, and so unbelievably entertaining. Is there a writer and or a director that has influenced your style, or is this just all you in everything, the dark comedy, the drama, everything just coming out from your personality?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's certainly a lot of writers and directors that influence me in different various ways. I don't know if any of them pertain directly to the kind of tonal world of this film. It's sort of, I'm still not quite sure where it came from. It just kind of exploded out. But you know, I wouldn't sort of specify one particular director, but I have a lot of friends that are directors, and my boyfriend David Michaud is a director. I work in this sort of collective called Blue Tongue Films. There's about 7 of us, and I'm probably the youngest, and I'm the only woman in that collective. And I started working with them when I was acting. I was acting in their short films and in their features as well. And then when I started to direct, they kind of, I officially joined the group. And those guys are really kind of, they're sort of my best friends and my partner, but B, I get a lot of inspiration from them because they're all very different filmmakers. So we all work on each other's stuff, we collaborate, we help out. It's a sort of a loose collective, but I love just understanding how unique everyone's voice is within that. So, you know, I learn a lot from watching those guys. I spend a lot of time loitering on their sets, or, you know, I've got a lot of support from them when I need help with something that I don't know about, something technical. So, you know, they're all a great support and inspiration for me.
Great. Damon, I have one last question for you. I like to think that no matter what art we're creating, we learn something with every project that we're in. Is there anything that you learned being on the set and having Mirrah as your director, or within your character's performance, that you are grateful to having learned?
Yeah, probably just something to do with the tonal nature of this film. You know, I hadn't really ever worked on something. I'd worked on things that were dark or were funny, or, you know, but this film has such a different array of tones throughout it that are brought together in one kind of overarching cohesive tone. And I probably wouldn't have known you could pull that off until Mirrah proved that you could. So that's probably what I've come away with.
Very good. Mirrah Foulkes, Damon Herriman, thank you both so much for creating this masterfully brilliant film and for being a part of Real 360 today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Pam. Lovely to talk to you.
Thanks, Pam. Thanks
Great
so much.
to talk with you.